Just a few years ago, I and many other people were completely unaware of carbon dioxide monitors. However, as someone who's interested in indoor air pollution, carbon dioxide monitors have quickly come on my radar, and over the past few years, I've had the opportunity to review quite a few of them. As awareness around ventilation is improving, we've quickly seen carbon dioxide monitors become a particularly important tool in helping us identify poor ventilation and indoor air quality. In particular, they've become popular because with carbon dioxide monitors, you can also, with some caveats, identify the chance of indoor transmission of viruses. However, with carbon dioxide monitors becoming so popular, more and more models have been released on the market. And now you can find carbon dioxide monitors from so many different brands, so many different models, and in so many different price ranges. Over time, although we have more options, it's also become more and more difficult to pick the right carbon dioxide monitor for you. There's inexpensive options that come in as cheap as $50, and there's very, very expensive options that can go into the thousands of dollars. In today's video, I want to take a look at how you can pick the right carbon dioxide monitor, beginning with the most important features that you'll want to look for. I do also have some individual recommendations, and I'll be discussing those later in the video. So, if you've been wondering about which carbon dioxide monitor you should buy for your use case, then continue watching this video and find out. It's also worth mentioning that I'm only going to be discussing monitors that I have personal experience with. I don't want to recommend or discuss a monitor that I haven't tried myself, and while I have tried quite a few monitors, I haven't tried every monitor. So if you see something missing from either this video or the accompanying article, please feel free to recommend it in the comments section. I'll do my best to get a review as soon as I can. However, for now, I just want to focus on the monitors that I've tried. Luckily, these include many of the most popular monitors on the market. Before diving into this video, I do want to mention that I'll be focusing on relatively inexpensive consumer-grade carbon dioxide monitors. There are carbon dioxide monitors that cost hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of dollars, and those are for occupational and industrial use. And they require professional calibration every 6 months or every year. Instead, in this video, I'll be focusing on relatively inexpensive options, such as the very cheap Vitalight, which comes in at about $40 to $50 depending on when you buy it, all the way up to the Aranet4 Home, which ranges from about $170 to $250. When it comes to features you will want to be on the lookout for in a good carbon dioxide monitor, there are a lot. However, many of these are up to personal preference, and therefore they aren't essential. These include connectivity, whether the device has a configurable alarm, the screen type of the device, the size and portability of the monitor, whether it has a rechargeable battery, and whether it's updatable. Let's dive into each of these points one by one. The first feature that might be important to you is connectivity. And this is whether or not the device connects to your phone or computer via Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. And this is important if you want to be able to update your device, but it's even more important if you want to be able to view historical data and data trends. Personally, I appreciate connectivity because, at least on most apps for most devices, this also means that I can export data and view it in Excel. Secondly, configurable alarms might be important for you. Personally, I don't care for audible alarms on my devices, but you might consider an audible and adjustable alarm to be an essential to keep you informed even when you aren't looking at the device. These can be very handy sometimes, but they're also annoying, so this one is really up to personal preference. Next, it's worth considering the screen type, especially if the device has an e-ink screen. These days, many carbon dioxide monitors use an e-ink screen, and while these aren't essential, they're preferred by many users due to the improved battery life they bring. They also have great viewing angles, and they're very easy to view at both day and night. Size and portability is also a big concern for many users. Depending on how you plan to use your device, you might want to consider a small device. If portability is a primary concern of yours, you want to ensure the device is small enough to fit into your pocket, handbag, backpack, or wherever else you plan to place it. Of course, if you plan to use the device only at home, say on a desk or even mounted to the wall, portability and size aren't really a concern for you. Another factor you might want to consider is whether the device has a rechargeable battery. Many carbon dioxide monitors, such as the Aranet4 Home and the Inkbird IAM-T1, don't use rechargeable batteries, and instead use AA batteries. While their battery life is quite good, and even when they're reading every second, they generally last for at least 3 or 4 months, the cost of AA's can actually add up very significantly over a few years, and if you're buying, say, Energizer batteries, you might be paying $10 for 2 batteries every time you have to replace the batteries. In cases like this, you might want to consider a rechargeable battery instead, as over the lifetime of your carbon dioxide monitor, you will save a lot of money. The final factor that's up to personal preference but that you might want to be on the lookout for is updatability. If longevity is a key concern for you, it's important to look for devices that are updatable, usually via an app, and that are actually backed by a company or person that want to update their products and actively keep them updated. It's one thing to have the possibility to be updated, but it's another to actually receive regular updates. So this is my list of features that I always look for in carbon dioxide monitors. However, as you may be able to tell, they're not essential. For example, having a rechargeable battery isn't essential, and nor is having meetings free. These really come down to user preference and use case. Now, I want to have a look at a few features that I consider essential in full carbon dioxide monitors. And if a monitor lacks one of these features, it's often a deal breaker for me. Let's get started.
The first essential feature to look out for is an NDIR sensor. NDIR stands for non-dispersive infrared, and these are the gold standard for carbon dioxide monitoring. These sensors have a chamber where air enters, normally passively, but sometimes monitors will have an intake fan. Once the air is inside the chamber, a beam of light specifically set to the wavelength of carbon dioxide will be activated. On the opposite side of the chamber, a receptacle monitors how much light makes it across the chamber. The two other common sensor types are metal oxide semiconductors and electrochemical sensors. However, both of these sensors can be thrown off by other substances in the air that can impact readings. Furthermore, they tend to drift more than NDIR sensors, especially electrochemical sensors. For this reason, you'll always want to be on the lookout for an NDIR sensor within your carbon dioxide monitor. This is by far the most important feature to look out for in any monitor, and if you're not getting an NDIR sensor-equipped monitor, you can never really rely on the readings. The next feature that I consider essential in all of my carbon dioxide monitors is the ability to manually recalibrate. While NDIR sensors are accurate, they do suffer from some issues, and one of these issues is sensor drift. Over time, it's possible, and very likely, that your carbon dioxide monitor will start to provide skewed measurements. This is called sensor drift, and can be caused by a range of variables. Since sensor drift can impact any consumer-grade carbon dioxide monitor, it's important to have a way to counter the sensor drift. The best way to do this is to manually recalibrate your device from time to time to set a new baseline value. Every carbon dioxide monitor is susceptible to this drift, and purchasing a carbon dioxide monitor that allows for manual calibration is very important. While some devices offer auto-calibration as a feature, this can cause issues when the device isn't taken outside for long periods of time to create a new baseline value. While some companies will market auto-calibration as a so-called feature, it's important to always ensure that your device also supports manual calibration, because auto-calibration can cause so many problems. Strictly speaking, the third so-called essential feature isn't really essential. However, on all but the cheapest monitors, I'd recommend looking out for it. So what is the feature? Well, it's the ability to store historical data. Generally, on carbon dioxide monitors, you can view the concentration in one of two ways, either on the device itself, or on an accompanying app or website. The issue with viewing the data on the device itself is that you can only see the carbon dioxide concentration at a given moment. This creates issues if you want to view overall trends. This is where connectivity becomes so important. On monitors like the Aranet4, you can view past data for, I believe, currently up to a month, and this allows you to see trends. I find this particularly important for analyzing carbon dioxide concentrations when I'm sleeping. Obviously, I can't wake up to check the monitor constantly, but it's great to be able to look at the concentration in the morning and see what happened overnight. Should I keep my window open slightly while sleeping? Do I need to open the door? This is information you will only know on a monitor that supports historical data, and that's why I consider it very, very important. Next, you might be interested in looking out for other sensors on a carbon dioxide monitor. Nearly every monitor on this list also has a relative humidity and temperature sensor, and while these aren't necessary, they're nice additions to have. While carbon dioxide is a good indicator of when ventilation is needed, seeing the humidity and temperature provides deeper insight into overall air quality. Some devices I'm about to discuss on this list also offer more complete sensor arrangements with PM2.5, PM10, TVOC, and atmospheric pressure sensors. While these are unnecessary on a carbon dioxide monitor, they're great on indoor air quality monitors. When purchasing a carbon dioxide monitor, you want to ask yourself, do I need these extra sensors, or could I find them beneficial? If the answer is yes, you want to look at a device which includes them. Finally, and very importantly, you want to consider battery life. When it comes to carbon dioxide monitors, battery life can vary wildly. Some monitors will have only a couple of hours of battery life, or no battery life at all, while some can last as long as 4 years. To say there is a crazy level of variation in battery life might be an understatement. When deciding which carbon dioxide monitor best suits your needs, you want to keep battery life in mind. If you're looking for a desk-based solution to be used at home, you won't need a device with a long battery life. On the other hand, if you want a portable monitor to take everywhere, you want to look for the longest battery life possible.
The first category that I want to discuss is the best all-around carbon dioxide monitor. This is the most solid monitor that just works well in all situations. Now, you might already have guessed where this is going, and I'm going to say it is the Aranet4 Home. Well, this is a premium device, and it is quite pricey. Besides the price, there's really no downsides to it. It's accurate, it has a great sensor, it has both automatic and manual calibration, and the battery life is fantastic. On top of this, it also has a fantastic accompanying app. You can use it to look at historical carbon dioxide trends, and over time you can even update the product to unlock new features when they're released. Now, as I mentioned, the price is the biggest downside, and if the price is deterring you from buying an Aranet4 Home, the Inkbird IEM-T1 is also worth looking at. Now, if these devices are a similar price at the time that you're looking at purchasing, then I recommend the Aranet4 Home. However, of course, sales can influence the price, and if there's a sale on the IEM-T1 and it's significantly cheaper than the Aranet4, this is a great monitor that shares many of the same features. Besides having a slightly larger size and not having instantaneous measurements or on-demand measurements like the Aranet4, it really shares most of the features of the more expensive product, and therefore it's an easy second recommendation depending on the price at the time of purchasing. However, what about if portability is your key concern? What if you're looking for a carbon dioxide monitor that you could take with you to school, to college, or to your workplace? In this case, I would actually make two of the same recommendations in the Aranet4 Home and the Inkbird IEM-T1. If you can afford it, the Aranet4 Home is a fantastic portable monitor because its compact size allows you to easily put it in a backpack, a handbag, or even in your pocket. It also has a great application which allows you to check the CO2 concentration without ever pulling the device out of your pocket or backpack. However, the best feature for the Aranet4 Home and portability is the insane battery life. Lasting up to 4 years, you never need to think about charging the device. Luckily, the Inkbird IEM-T1 also shares these strengths. And when it comes to portability, the only big downside of the Inkbird IEM-T1 is the lack of on-demand readings, which currently only the Aranet4 Home supports. Of course, it is a slightly larger device too, and while it's easy enough to put in a bag or a handbag, it's not so pocketable. However, I do also want to introduce one more monitor in this section, and that's the Vitalight Mini CO2 detector. I made a full review on this the other day, and I recommend checking it out if you're interested. But this inexpensive carbon dioxide monitor comes in at only $30 or $40, depending on when you buy it. While it doesn't have any connectivity or a 4-year battery life, what it does have is a battery that will let you get through the day and on-demand CO2 readings. While you can't view any trends because of the lack of connectivity, you can see the CO2 concentration at any given time. It's also very small, much smaller than the Aranet4, and it has a carabiner, allowing you to attach it to a handbag or bag strap, making it ideal for an on-the-go monitor. Now, let's discuss the best connected monitor. While most of these monitors in front of me have connectivity, it's via Bluetooth. And Bluetooth is great if you're using it on a personal level. However, if you want to, say, monitor the carbon dioxide in an office space or in a cafe that you run, then you want to look for something that has better connectivity in the form of Wi-Fi. Now, the Aranet4 does have Wi-Fi, but only if you opt for the more expensive option, the Aranet4 Pro. You'll also need the base station, which is hundreds of dollars alone. Therefore, if you're looking for a connected monitor, something that can send data to the cloud where you can access it, you want to look at the CO2.Click Model C. This monitor is great and it's cheaper than the Aranet4 Home. However, it allows you to upload data from as many monitors as you want to one central online dashboard. This is fantastic if you, say for example, want to have one monitor in one room and then another monitor in another room. If you try to do this with the Aranet4 Home, you'll find that the Bluetooth range just simply isn't good enough, and you'll have to walk around between the different rooms to actually access the data from each different device. Instead, the Wi-Fi that you can find on the CO2.Click Model C is far more powerful for a situation like this, and I highly recommend it if you want to monitor carbon dioxide from one central spot in multiple rooms. Now, let's say you're looking for an inexpensive option. In this case, I recommend the Vitalight Mini CO2 detector. There are a few inexpensive options, however you want to be careful when purchasing a cheaper carbon dioxide monitor because many of the cheaper options use outdated sensors that simply aren't accurate. On the other hand, the Vitalight device uses an NDIR sensor that, when calibrated correctly, is very accurate. With that said, it does have a rather aggressive auto-calibration feature that means the device auto-calibrates every 7 days. This can quickly lead to the device becoming inaccurate, and if you want to learn more about this issue, please check out my full review of the Vitalight Mini CO2 detector. However, if you manage that flaw, it's an accurate device and it even has manual calibration, which can be easily performed when outside. While it doesn't quite have the battery life of the Aranet4 or the Inkbird, well, really, it doesn't have anywhere near the battery life, it can still get you through a day, and it means it's fantastic for taking to school, to college, to work, wherever you need to go throughout the day. It also has this handy carabiner which lets you clip it onto a backpack or even onto a belt loop on your pants if you want to. All in all, this is a great inexpensive option for only $40 to $50 depending on when you buy it. Now, my final recommendation is for a disc-based carbon dioxide monitor. I don't have either of these devices with me right now, but I'll put a picture of them in the corner of the screen. These are the QP Air Quality Monitor and Air Quality Monitor Lite. These are both fantastic devices because alongside measuring carbon dioxide concentrations, they also measure other indoor air pollutants. Depending on the monitor you're looking at, they can also monitor PM2.5, PM10, and TVOCs. This makes them incredibly well-rounded as indoor air pollution monitors, and they're also very inexpensive compared to other options on the market. While I don't have either of these devices with me at the moment, I've used them both for many months, and I've come to appreciate them. They're fantastic on a nightstand or on a table, and even on a desk next to where you're working. So if you're looking for a disc-based carbon dioxide monitor, I'd recommend one of them, because they're cheaper than most of these monitors here, and they also monitor a lot more pollutants, meaning that they give you more complete insight into your indoor air quality. And that about concludes this video. If you have any more questions or you feel like something remains unanswered, please feel free to check out the article in the description of this video. The article goes into more details, and if you still have questions remaining after reading that, please feel free to comment down below and I'll do my best to answer however I can. As you can see, there's so many carbon dioxide monitors on the market. However, thankfully, they cover all price ranges and all kind of feature ranges. If you're looking for something inexpensive, the Vitalight Mini CO2 detector is a great choice, and it's very cheap these days. However, if you don't have such a strict budget and you don't mind spending a bit more, devices like the Aranet4 Home have a lot more features and they're far more capable. However, the thing to keep in mind is that all the carbon dioxide monitors on this list are good at their job. It just depends on how you plan to use them and what your budget is. Thank you for watching.